Rishi Sunak has appeared on LBC to answer questions from the public following his spring statement. Here's what happened when he took a call from a single mum who is struggling to look after her children on the money that she makes.
Who on paper has a good job and what's considered a good salary, but unfortunately the rising costs of everything, especially energy, have now put an intense strain on my ability to provide for my children. The significant increase in our energy bill has meant that we don't have the boiler on. The lights are always off unless absolutely necessary, and when it's cold we wear jumpers and coats, and sometimes you can see our breaths when we breathe. Now, despite working a full-time job, I'm having to find ways to bridge the gap. I've started cleaning houses, and I spend every evening riding a bike, delivering for Uber Eats. I've managed to cut my grocery shop down to just £15 a week for an adult and 2 children, and I often go without myself to make sure the kids get what they need in their fed. A £150 grant towards energy bills, which have risen by an average of £2,000 a year, just isn't going to cut it. I've just about been able to balance things up until this point, but I'm now facing paying out more each month than I'm making. What are you going to do to address the soaring cost of energy? And if you're not doing anything, please tell me what else you suggest I can be doing to help myself.
Well, Hazel, thanks for your question. And look, I can't imagine how difficult your job is, right? I've got 2 kids as well, and I, have, as I said, obviously my wife and other helped with us. So, enormous admiration for what you're doing. And it sounds like you're working your socks off to look after them. So tribute to you. But to put more money in your pocket, as you said, the measure I announced today, I'm sure will help you. And that was a significant tax cut on national insurance. So again, not knowing your particular circumstances, but a typical worker is going to see £330 tax cut starting in July. And, I hope that that's helpful to you and your kids.
Does that include the 1.2% rise? Well, because you're putting up national insurance by 1.2% in April and then cutting it for people at the lower end.
The combination of those 2 things mean that 70% of workers, and probably, Hazel, given the situation she described herself being in, would be in this category. 70% of workers will pay less tax even after accounting for the new levy. So it will really help put extra cash in people's pockets starting in July.
OK, Hazel, a quick response from you?
I think the response from Rishi is difficult because the support that is apparently being offered just isn't relative at all to what the rising costs are for us. And, the fact that energy is going to be going up again in October, despite how significantly it has gone up already, you're going to see more and more people relying on food banks, then also not able to afford to work. And you're going to have people in low-income families or families such as myself who may well get very, very ill because they're unable to afford to heat their homes.
Super articulate caller, with really, really legitimate concerns talking to Rishi Sunak. And then he uses such a politician's answer. I've got 2 children too, so I understand. You also have a billionaire wife, Rishi. Funny you forgot to mention that, because that's actually quite significant when it comes to how difficult the cost of living crisis is going to be. However many kids you've got, this is not going to affect you like it affects that caller. I mean, also how that caller ended there, she's exactly right. Rishi Sunak has, given a few quid here and there. You look at this, that sort of the net effect of this announcement, this spring statement, is probably going to be that lots of households have a little bit more money than they would have had without this spring statement. But what that ignores is the context in which this is taking place. So the context in which this is taking place is that energy bills are going up by 52%. Inflation is at 8%. It's going to be higher than that for people on lower incomes. That's because they spend a greater proportion of their incomes on things like food and energy, less on luxuries, of course, less on just saving, essentially. Rishi Sunak is saying, well, you got £350 here, I'll sort of raise your threshold for paying national insurance over there. Maybe I'll give you a tax cut in 2024. I mean, obviously that tax cut is not for people facing a cost of living crisis. That's a giveaway for his political career. And then he is there just, straight-faced talking to someone who his policies are absolutely screwing over. The person on the phone there is someone who is going to have to deal with her costs rising by 10% and her income only rising by 3%. If she's on universal credit, her universal credit will only increase by 3% when inflation is at 8%. And his answer is, there's a little bit here and there. I also thought his answer was a little bit slippery, because he said the change in the threshold to when you start paying national insurance will put £350 in, many working people's pockets. Then he was asked, does this count even after we include the increase you did to national insurance? And he didn't say yes. What he said was, when you take the two together, the majority of people will be paying less tax, the two of those together. So the £350 figure, which is sort of, more impressive than just paying a little bit less tax, it could be the case that actually that caller, when you count those two taxes together, maybe she's only £10 better off, right? So I thought his answer there was slippery when it came to the technicality of it. I think Ian Dale could have pushed him a little bit harder on that. But anyway, I mean, the most important person in that call was the person who was calling Rishi Sunak, and his answers were just wholly unsatisfactory because, and we just can't emphasize this enough, prices are going up by 8% and incomes are only going up by 3%. So people who are already struggling are now screwed. And everyone knows it. It's simple arithmetic. And if Rishi Sunak cared about that, he'd be like, okay, well, prices are rising by 8%. Then what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to increase people's incomes by 8%. Otherwise, they're really going to struggle. No. So, I couldn't possibly do that. We've already supported you so much during coronavirus. So just as you've gone through two of the most difficult years of your life, you're going to have to deal with a 5% pay cut.